It's the shirt, man.
It's so dark. It's just
like
a head with a hat.
I didn't realize it was Venta Black when I put it on, man.
I know, yeah.
You look fine.
He's the floating head of wisdom. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Swamp Cleaner. I hope you guys had a great couple weeks. Opening start of the Trump presidency. It's been crazy 4 weeks. Every day seems like something new is happening. Bam, bam, bam. We're getting what we promised, action from the very start. And we're starting to see some results already. Today, I've got a great panel. We've got RamblinManTV. We got RandomRansom. He is new to the show. And we got, of course, VermiciousKnid as always. Everybody say hello. How you guys doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
Alrighty. Well, today our topic of discussion to start off the show, we'll be talking about DOGE and all that it's been doing the past couple of weeks, what it's trying to tackle, what it's trying to get into, trying to find out what's going on with inside the federal government. And we've already found some very egregious either fraud, corruption, or incompetence. You can take your pick. It's all bad. But they are uncovering some crazy things. And then later on in the show, we will be talking about some of the issues with big tech conservatism. We'll get into that deeper, especially when it comes to this whole buzz around Ashley St. Clair and her baby daddy, Elon. But we will discuss that. And I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys smash the like button. Hope you guys will come back around, leave some comments down below, and we'll get right into it. So, DOGE is off to a flying start. Elon Musk has his team headed up by Big Balls and the like. And I caught you right when you're getting that coffee sip, right? All right, but they are already pulling out results, especially just the other day, off the top of my head, the Social Security numbers and the mess in the database, and why people who are 250 years old are pulling on Social Security. What do you guys think about all that mess?
I think it's like the extent of the corruption and fraud and stuff is it's more than I even expected. But I think it's good to see it finally coming out in the light. I guess to say like there's finally something being done about it. Like I don't know. I feel like we knew the government was stealing money and doing all this stuff for a long time, or at least people in the government were, and it's nice to kind of see.
Well, we always had like evidence, and we always had like word of mouth, like open secret, but now it's like proof. And
yeah,
do you think at this point it's with so much with so much what looks like malfeasance, do you think it's intentional or just massive incompetence or a big old Ponzi scheme of corruption? What is your personal opinion about if is it like just like whoops, or is it like we're going to coordinate this?
I think there's probably some of both. Like there probably is just some incompetence, some like isolated people or factions doing doing their own thing, and then there's some probably heavy intent behind some of it. I mean, if we just like look at what's going on the last 4 years, there's just been a lot of bad things going on in government in general, and I don't know. At what point do you stop assuming it's just incompetence and start assuming it has to be malicious? I guess.
See, and I'm old enough where I remember $400 hammers in the 90s. So I think 30, 40 years ago, it was a couple of maybe it was the military industrial complex that was doing it, and it was spreading. I think at this point, the government is preoccupied where maybe it's its greatest thing that it pays attention to right now is that. I think it's so bad and so rampant that it is a way of life within the government at this point on the higher ups. I mean, your Joe Schmo and John Doe at low level doing typical jobs aren't involved in that, but everyone high up, that's completely intentional. I think that's why they seek those jobs. It's so rotten that I don't know how you solve it at this point without really just breaking the whole thing. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the E in DOGE, the efficiency part of things, I think that the inefficiency of government has actually kind of snowballed. where they're using, from what I understand, COBOL, an old computer code in order to utilize the system that they're using right now. And that's, from what I understand, one of the reasons why people are coming up as dead for so long. There may be more, it might be more complicated in terms of like, are they actually 150 plus years old? Are they actually 300 years old? But the fact that they're still using such an old system, that's causing inefficiency, that's causing people to possibly be able to be exploiting that system and be able to get money from Social Security when they're not supposed to. So it's definitely. I'm interested to see if they do have evidence of, thousands of people or millions of people being able to exploit the system that is the Social Security system.
I can actually shed a little light on that. I have a good friend that works deep inside the federal government.
Okay.
And they have some antiquated stuff, and it's not that bad. It's
Okay.
not it's from what I've heard and understood right now. Clearly, that's I'm hearing about a small slice of it. I don't know about the whole thing,
Well,
but
you can see where the most of that fraud will come from, because they always say like, well, they've always, every couple of years they say, well, our systems, we need to upgrade our systems, and then they always divest or invest money into that. I think that's where a lot of that, instead of upgrading the systems, they will just do some quick IT work, do like a software something, and most of that is just pocketed or just like sidelined somewhere else. So I mean,
from an IT perspective, and that's actually what my friend works in the government, they are extremely inefficient. So like even just their IT stuff is a huge bureaucracy, right? So, but as far as running stuff 30, 40 years old, from what I've understood, it's not that bad. That doesn't mean it is or it isn't. That's just what I've understood.
well,
Interesting.
it could also be like on a state level too, because like states have to be able to do interstate commerce, and you have to run on the oldest software that's connected. So a lot of people have to do multiple systems, duplicate systems, and that's why like they run into these issues where some places are using older software. Like you said, they are using COBOL. Isn't that one of the issues with that? Is that system they couldn't recognize duplicate social security numbers, so there was like the same numbers being drawn at the same time.
I think there was also an issue with no date being input correctly, or couldn't recognize certain dates, and that may be one of the reasons why they have people who may or may not be actually 150 years old listed in the system, or 300 years listed in the system. It may just be that there's a date that the system couldn't recognize properly. So that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to seeing more evidence that comes out about this.
And the thing is, though, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. As quickly as DOGE walked in there and pulled those numbers, anyone else could have done that. DOGE is not using some level of magic that no one else has.
And,
Of course
and the
not.
lady resigned, like the head of it, she resigned instead of cooperating and doing this simple thing. So these people, it gets to the point where it's not incompetence, because if it's that easy, you should be able to do it. There's some kind of intent of either some kind of ideological tribalism going on, where I'm going to stymie everything that you do and get in your way, or if it's because of just like hatred or just like blind like ignorance. I have no idea.
Or like 20 of her family members are on that list.
Yes, yeah, and then the malicious corruption. But I mean, and besides this, what do you guys think about the Fort Knox issue? Are we going to find that gold? Is it going to be there? Is it going to be just like lead bars painted gold?
Yeah, lead bars. If there's anything, right? I don't have any. I don't think there's any gold in Fort Knox, but it would be nice if we could find out maybe where it went, and when. Why.
It's being held in Fort Knox East in Iraq. But it's for safekeeping.
Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't know. I can definitely see where you guys are coming from. I at this point in time, because of how I view the government and whatnot, I honestly wouldn't be surprised either way to find, yeah, we do have gold there, and it's a whole bunch of gold, and they're going to walk through and find it, or like you said, it's going to be a bunch of lead bars painted gold or something. I wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly.
Maybe we'll find like Goldfinger down there.
Hey, did they go in there yet into Fort Knox? I know they're talking about it. Did
I
it
think
happen
they're
yet?
trying to. They're trying to like coordinate. I think because even like senators can't even get in there. So like I don't know if
I would
they
im-
need special clearance or whatever. But I don't know. There's a bunch of hurdles that you have to go through, and that's why it's fishy.
I would imagine, and this is clearly just a guess, but I would imagine that they're going to delay them as much as they can. And they're moving something back there so that when they go in there, there's
Well,
something
they're
there.
delaying is just as much as they're delaying Cash Patel getting pushed through. Quick side note: what is your guys' opinion on Cash? We need the cash. Give me the cash.
Yeah, I like Cash. I don't know. I've seen him on other streams and stuff, and seen him talk and stuff. He seems like he really wants to go in there and gut the FBI, which
Going to get that Epstein list. He says that.
Yeah.
He said that many times. Within 10 days, that list is coming out.
yeah, it'd be great to see that.
I've watched him on Timcast a few times before, over the last couple of years. He's pretty hardcore, and he seems on the up and up right now. Like I detected no subterfuge or no inconsistency or anything but exactly what he says.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine guy. I agree, and I am very much all for them going into the FBI, the CIA, and cleaning house, because I'm not sure where all of you guys stand on this, but I think there's way too much corruption in both. I mean, our intelligence agencies. I've seen stories, and I mean, I haven't experienced it myself, but I've seen stories of the FBI being used against the people of the United States in a way that's like, no, I'm sorry, this is like you're going against parents in schools because they're complaining about certain things, and you're not going after some other people that, I don't know. It's
at this point, the corruption is so intertwined. Like, what was that? I use this analogy. This comedian had a set last year for the holidays where he had like a random name generator for Hallmark movies, and you could just randomly, like, a woman, she's like a CEO, goes back home and meets the hometown hunk and falls in love. Boom, it's this movie from this. You could just say, well, the USAID funded poppy fields in Iraq to fund CIA covert missions overseas. Boom, 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 it's there. So I mean, this is how intertwined it is, because like, if you want, like, just right there, that example, which is real, if you uncover that tie, like, that's where the real money making is.
I honestly think they have a random check generator for that. And then all that is checks they're writing to themselves. And they put in some woke random check generator, just like you said. Hey, give me a topic to write a check to that'll come back to me.
Well, what's that one that they found, the $4.7 trillion just like open like active directive or whatever of just
wasn't that for? I thought it was $1 billion.
That's like, no, it's 4.7 trillion. That's just unaccounted for. That's gone. Like, that was just signed off to go somewhere, but not even listed. I mean, they're fine. All the list of things, like if you go to the DOGE X handle, and they're every on the hour posted stuff that they're finding, like $50 million here, like $25,000 to like an opera for gay people, all this good stuff. I mean, they're finding all that listed stuff, but then they're saying that we're finding about a blank check of almost $5 trillion in the past 4 years just down the hole.
Well, I think this is like the Ukraine thing, where
that's where the debt rises to. That's why we get the debt at 36
right,
trillion.
right. But it's like the Ukraine thing in my mind, the check stuff, just like we're saying, because the money goes out, but once it goes out, you don't know where it goes. So for all you know, and I suspect a lot of it's coming back.
I mean, Zelensky said that, like 100, like out of the 132 odd billion dollars that has been invested into Ukraine, he said that close to $100 billion is gone or something. I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, because I know that bought himself a couple yachts the other year, and he's, he's definitely on the take of something. So come on, please stop lying. Like, that's why we're playing hardball now. And then the Europeans are acting surprised that we're that we're telling them how it is.
Oh, well, I guarantee you they're all in on that too. So everybody's sending money to Ukraine, not everybody, but the Western powers are sending money to Ukraine, and they all get a piece of it when it comes back. I guarantee that's happening. It's the reason why they're so happy to do it.
Yeah, it's laundering. It's money laundering.
Exactly. That's all it is. And to be honest with you, I think it's pretty much the same thing. It's not to the same level, but like with Israel, right? I think that's why Israel gets defended so much, because it's the same thing more or less, but it's just been going on for longer, right? Like that one's the long con on that piece of it. Ukraine's the one where they're just dumping as much as they can, as quick as they can.
Yeah, when it comes to these government agencies, I mean, when they're not sending our money overseas for random things, and even without the woke stuff, I mean, they're experimenting on American citizens. I mean, all the way back to like MK Ultra and putting LSD in apartments, water supplies, just to see what would happen, stuff like that. And that's just the stuff we know about. That's just the stuff they've come clean about. And that's bad enough. So I'm sure the stuff we don't know about is worse. And I'd rather not spend the money on them.
And I'd rather have Cash Patel in there exposing this stuff.
Yeah.
So that we do know about it.
Yeah.
This stuff has been going on for a very long time. There is a movie made in 1974 movie came out, 3 Days of the Condor, with Robert Redford. It was about the military industrial complex. So, and clearly back then it was not as advanced as it was now, but it's been going on for quite some time. I think probably post World War II, this is when it all got rolling.
But you know what? If you want to take a tertiary look at probably where you'll see a lot of corruption and money happening, look at the things that RFK just came out and said he wants to investigate, like food additives, all the food and I forgot the list, but I need to bring it up on Twitter. Let me see if I can find it here. Because I tweeted it out, because it has an entire list of what he's going to be going after, and it's a lot of like big industry, food industry, the chemical industry. A lot of industry is going to be affected because everybody needs to eat. So that's the one industry that always makes money, makes a ton of money every year, regardless if it's a good year, bad year for harvesting, etc. They always get their share. They always get their influence, and it's a big issue. So as I pull this up, you guys, what is your opinions on all that?
Oh, I think that there's almost an incestuous relationship between, as RFK has said, big ag and big pharma, where you have big agriculture coming out with stuff like high fructose corn syrup or whatnot that causes some issues for us, and putting, like you said, food additives and chemicals and whatnot in the American food that's not found in food, even up in Canada or over in the UK or whatnot. And that causes some issues like, let's say weight gain. You have to eat more in order to fulfill your necessary nutritional intake. Well, that weight gain, now how do we fix that? Well, we're not going to tell you to eat less, because then that's getting less money to big ag. Well, we're going to get this thing called Ozempic, and we'll just give that to you, and then suddenly now you're all fixed. So now both big ag and big pharma are making money off of the people. So yeah, I think that
I think there's one more level above that, which is the medical stuff too.
Yeah,
because they're getting in on that, and that's part of the Ozempic thing, right? Because the Ozempic, Novartis is the name of the company in Europe that makes Ozempic. They are betting big time on their stock because they're trying to get Ozempic approved by Medicare and insurance companies. And then once they do, it's off to the races, because they plan on that being taken as a lifetime drug. Because as soon as you stop taking it, you gain weight back, because you haven't changed, what you're doing.
Yeah, and what I'll say is, I did just have a big section there of me talking bad about certain things and bring up Ozempic and whatnot. I will say that I'm not completely against medications or anything like that, because I think that there are there are conditions that people can have that require some kind of medication, but I think that that the pharmaceutical companies, like you're talking about, and the medical industry, I think they can be motivated to try and get you on something because, like you said, then this can be okay. Well, now we've got a lifetime. I mean, it's almost like a drug dealer, right? And it's like, well, hey, the first one's free, but then you got to keep on paying, and then once I get you addicted, well, then now I've got a lifetime customer. So yeah, I think that if they weren't pushing it so hard to have so many people on this, like, well, hold on, how about we just first try reducing your calorie intake and increasing your your exercise, right? That's difficult, but that's the more natural way of doing this. We're not just going to put you on a drug. We're not just going to give you some ADHD medication. Well, how about we work on just allowing you to be more to work on your ability to concentrate on something. It's like it seems like people just want the quick thing now that'll get them fixed rather than putting in the work.
And that's what I say about the medical stuff. I mean, medicine stuff, right? And clearly there's a call for medicine, but at this point, at least in the mental health area, there's a pill and a diagnosis for everything outside of euphoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, yeah. See, like that, like we definitely need to tackle like these issues because, like, as RFK says here, he wants to be going after things like artificial food additives, SSRIs, antidepressants. That's a massive one because that's linked to a lot of issues with people's mental health. It's especially when these things are supposed to stop exactly what a lot of these people do. They snap and then they do like commit a school shooting or something like that. He's looking to want to do ultra processed foods, childhood vaccine schedules, and that's something that I think should be done. You shouldn't be given at a certain age a kid like 10 different vaccines within like a couple month period. It's not good for them.
Yeah, I think kids get like 72 vaccines or something like that over a certain period of time. It's insane.
Yeah.
And again, there should be at least a study to find out if that's a healthy thing to be doing. But whenever someone brings it up, they're like, oh, you're a vaccine denier. It's like, no, not necessarily. We're just wanting a study to make sure that this is safe.
Also,
and when they give them, I was going to say real quick, when you give them the kids, they're often cocktails. Like you get several at one time.
And we found out how bad that can be when they found out that, if you take the COVID vaccine along with the flu vaccine, that actually increases your chances of stroke and heart attack. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, it's crazy. They also the glyphosate and pesticides is what they use on our foods. He also wants to look at the microplastics that are getting into everything.
One of the things I'll mention here real quick that relates to a topic that we were discussing earlier is one of the reasons why people are so into grass-fed cattle is because there isn't the same stuff that you'd have on corn. Stuff that you'd spray on corn or whatnot in order to keep that safe and healthy and whatnot, or try and keep it growing. It's then they're thinking that it might get into the cattle's meat, and then we're going to be eating that. So it's not great.
And the final one that I'd like to touch on, which actually interests me the most, and I've heard about it from a long time, especially the first time I've heard about it was from Alex Jones. They put another one in the jar for that. Electromagnetic radiation, as in stuff that comes through your cell phone, 4G, 5G, plus also like if you live near big power line towers, where the electromagnetic radiation is coming off of those. They want to do studies and see how it affects people's health there. And that's another one that interests me because that's something that people don't really touch on, even though everybody knows about electromagnetic radiation and that it already does something a little weird with your psychology.
There's a lot of people have known about some of the adverse effects for EMFs for years, like hallucinations, headaches, nausea, those immediate kind of like side effects I've heard dozens of times. Who knows what the long-term effects are? I'm sure they're not good.
And one thing that can be
no, go ahead. You go ahead.
One thing that can be kind of tricky when it comes to electromagnetic, electromagnetic spectrum actually includes a whole lot of things. like visible light. So I think it can be very, very tricky for people to wrap their minds around when discussing this type of stuff. And it's the fact that technically the wavelengths have always been there, just like the wavelengths of light have always been there. But when you're receiving, when your phone is drawing it in or whatnot, like you said, who knows exactly what the effects are going to be over a long period of time. Again, that'd be something that hopefully people don't just sit down and go like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's like, well, how about we just do a scientific study to find out? Because everybody has these things in their pockets, next to their heads, right next to their genitalia. So let's find out what kind of an effect it has on us over time.
Yeah, I believe that there is a correlation between that and like low sperm count. I really do.
Probably. I mean, if we're just talking about like visible light effects on people, I mean, I think I mentioned to one of you guys earlier, I used to live in Alaska when I was a kid, right? And where we were at, we would get like really dark winters and really light summers. In the summer, the sun doesn't go down. It's up.
Land of the midnight sun.
Yeah. And in the winter, we'd get like where we were at in Fairbanks, we'd get like 2-3 hours of sunlight a day, but it would kind of just come up just above the horizon, right? So it affected people's behavior there a lot. In the winter, people had like cabin fever. They're cooped up in their house in the heat all winter, didn't do anything. And then as soon as summer comes around, everybody's like finding any excuse they can to spend all their time outside, swimming, outdoor activities. It's almost kind of manic. And that's just from natural changes in normal like day-night cycle for people. I'm sure that, some of this blue light and some of this other stuff can have all kinds of other effects.
Yeah, when with your eyes, when your eyes stop receiving blue light, your brain starts producing melatonin that slows brain function. That's one of the reasons why people sleep at different times on different sides of the earth. So yeah, it can mess with your circadian rhythms if you're not getting blue light in through your eyes.
That's why they offer those filters on prescription glasses. And that's why I choose to get that, because there's also apps where your phones, usually all of them have built in where they have like blue light dimmers, yellow light dimmers, and then you hit that and it like softens the light, and then it lets you like naturally do that. But yeah, they have, they're all aware of all that. Yeah.
See, and Random, you said it was complex, and I think how those things work are very complex because there's so many things that we don't know. But I think in the macro, it's not complex. The way we evolved, what we may call the things around us that are natural, is what we were essentially made to handle and deal with. The moment you introduce things outside of that, there's going to be an effect, right? If you drink water, it has an effect on you. Nothing you take in or absorb has no effect on you. So clearly, those things are doing something. The question is how much and how bad are they?
Yeah, you take in microplastics. I'm sure that's not exactly a good thing for us. Plastic isn't exactly naturally occurring. So yeah. And
you know what? Like I seriously think like you can actually know when you're actually drinking water with bottled water, for example. You guys ever have a nice cold bottle of water, like it's in plastic, like a Deer Park or whatever, crack it open, you take the drink, and then you drink it. Oh, it's nice and cold, but then there's like that kind of like sharp aftertaste that makes you actually like have a little cough. I think that's like you can even now consciously, because they're talking about microplastics, you can consciously know when you're drinking it too. Because you can
taste the plastic. Yeah, you can taste the plastic.
You can drink. You're definitely. You can know. when you're drinking it now.
I try to use as much glass and metal as possible. I not only cook in cast iron. I got rid of Teflon to try to minimize that. So you can't get away from all of it, right? But I try to minimize it as much as possible.
Even though I don't really drink a lot of soda, and I kind of like don't like most sodas, but if I do, I get myself the Mexican Cokes, the Mexican Sprite, the Mexican Fanta, because it's all in glass bottles.
Yeah, what's good about that is, and what listeners might not know is that inside of aluminum cans, it's not just aluminum; they've got a plastic lining inside. So So you don't get aluminum.
That's why it's actually ironically a good thing to get rid of the paper straws, because that's the same thing. The paper straws have a slight plastic lining
Mhm.
that's dissolvable, especially if you drink hot fluids, that dissolves away, and that's why it gets soggy, because that lining dissolves. But that lining, it goes into your drink, and then you just drink up this dissolved plastic. Yay!
You know,
Oh
and
boy,
I think
carcinogens.
So
God, I'm
it's
sorry.
like a plastic straw is actually healthier.
I think there's an easy answer to the straw thing. I think it's very simple. You have two options that solve it. You can, have a pair and drink out the glass, or you steal straws. Simple.
Yeah,
My daughter uses the
I've
steel
been thinking
straws.
about metal straws.
Yeah, they work great. They work great. I mean, you have to clean them, but it takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah. I always those survival straws too. I always was interested in some of those, like the ones with the little filter things that you attach, and you can just drink right out of a river or something.
Yeah, the life straws.
Yeah, I know. Like Alex Jones was selling them at some point, but I never
Mhm.
really looked into it.
I think that's like an emergency only thing. I don't know that
Mhm.
you want to do that all the time. Drink out of the river with a life straw.
Yeah, let's just see how effective it is. Like I want
How
to
about you try it and you let us know?
get some MREs too and try those, just like sticks.
Yeah,
I-
but
I've tried it. It was all right.
I went through Katrina, so I've had a number of MREs, and they're actually not bad for what it is. If you consider what it is, it's not bad, but it's not good either.
I've heard they're better nowadays. Like, I was talking to a guy the other day that was saying he had they had some MRAs that had like fast food meals in them. Like Chick-fil-A dried out Chick-fil-A sandwiches and stuff or something.
Well, can you imagine what they put in that food to have that kind of shelf life?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, a regular McDonald's hamburger or chicken nugget you can leave under your car seat in the sun for a couple of days and still eat it. Imagine an MRE one. It's more chemical than food.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true.
And
true
this is one of the things that I'm really hoping that RFK Jr. Comes in and really, again, just does the studies, gives us the data, and tries to go, hey, this here is poisoning us. This over here isn't. Let's go with this over here rather than the poisons.
You
Well,
know,
that might upset a lot of people with contracts. So
Oh,
Who
yeah, it will.
cares?
Right. But the thing for me with RFK is I don't like tons of regulation. Clearly, some
Yeah.
things need to be banned. I'm more for forced transparency than regulation, right? Like, don't tell me not to eat McDonald's or whatever, or the red dye or whatever, but tell me about it. Let me know
Mhm.
what's in there, and don't let the companies lie about it.
And
I
you know what?
100% agree.
And that's a good transition. Transparency. I wanted the last point of the first topic of discussion, where DOGE is looking up under the hood of the United States government. Transparency. Why do you think, in you guys' opinion, why is there such a negative reaction to Elon Musk and DOGE and the transparency that they want before the American public? Because we voted for this, but apparently Democrats and people online who are of the leftist persuasion are having a shit fit over this.
Yeah, I will say, to begin with, when I voted for Trump, he had been saying, "Hey, we're going to do this Doge thing with Elon Musk." So yes, I actually did vote for this.
I can answer some of that with evidence, I believe, or let's call it anecdotal evidence. There's a Reddit, there's a subreddit called Fed News, and on there, it's nothing but federal employees. I go check on it every now and then. The night that they killed USAID, they were on there posting. I found it by accident that night. Like, I was trying to see if it had actually been closed, and it was happened that night. They were on there posting, and they were to answer your question. They were saying that the U.S. economy was going to take a massive hit because most of that money came back to American companies. They said that.
I mean, but then
Wow.
so for them, they're just the conveniently there as the middle person, just getting a nice chunk off the top. So sorry, it looks like we don't need you. Just kind of like how Elon cut 80% of the Twitter staff, and didn't really feel an effect when it comes to service. So essentially, you can do that with the United States government. Chop a hell of a lot of government agencies. We got what, 400 and plus odd listed government agencies. I'm sure plenty of those can get folded into other ones, and some can be eliminated entirely. And we can just, because of the amount of bureaucracy being removed, the amount of paperwork and digital paperwork and all that stuff being removed, you can save a ton of money there.
Yeah, and
One
I
of
think
the
that,
reasons. Go ahead, man.
oh, I was going to say that to bring it back to what you were talking about with transparency, I think that transparency is going to be so much better. It's going to be. I mean, I'm sure we're going to learn some stuff that's we're not going to be happy about, but at least we'll know about it. And you know, paper trail this, paper trail that. We'll be able to actually have access to the paper trails and go, yes, okay, here's something that's not good that was going on. Let's fix that, or at the very least, be aware of it. I think it's going to be I'm all for transparency. I understand there should be some things where we're like, hey, this needs to be kept out of our enemies' hands, so we're not going to tell them, hey, here's all of our nuclear codes, for instance. You know, there are some things that do need to be held back, but I think a lot of things that DOGE, I think, is going to be exposing is going to be stuff that though people won't be happy, you know, the government won't be happy, is going to be brought out into the light. I think it's something that really does need to be brought out there.
This is why, like, the Democrat messaging on this is completely hollow and pathetic at this point. You got them screaming constitutional crisis when they're the ones actually making the constitutional crisis. Because, for example, you have these activist judges. Why, for all of a sudden, do you have all these judges coming out of nowhere saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that? Why are these judges doing this? I mean, some of them, you find out that they have a wife receiving money through a department, or you have a daughter who works for a sub agency that was getting money. Like, why is this the thing, and why is this allowed to happen? If you want to talk about a crisis, you have to look at what the courts are doing to develop it.
Yeah, maybe some of this money is coming back to the U.S. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of it was going to Pakistani gender programs and condoms in Gaza and stuff like that. And you know, if we just don't give them the money, it definitely stays in the U.S.
Yeah, you don't. If most of it's coming back anyway, might as well not give it out in the first place.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're just
coming back, but I mean that's money laundering, right? If you
yeah,
it's
well,
going
that's
out,
what I'm
it's
saying.
coming back.
That's what I'm saying is I'm just saying might as well stop doing it, because then that'll stop the corruption and the money laundering if we just don't divvy it out in the first place.
Yeah, and then we might have money for, you know, like people in North Carolina or over in LA,
Yeah,
you know? I mean, we might have money for that stuff.
I believe most federal agencies can be eliminated, because it can just be a state, like federal governments issues the states the grants for their programs. Once the states issue their kind of like every year the annual state requisite budget to, like, pretty much please federal government. This is what we would like, kind of like that.
I don't think that should happen. I think the state should stand alone. I don't. And
Well,
I can,
yeah,
as someone,
I mean, the states, there's certain things, because there's interstate cooperation that needs to be coordinated on a federal level, but then for the most part, the state should run their own education. The state should
Right.
run their own interstate finances. Anything that is like a bigger project than that needs to be coordinated with the federal government. And when it comes to like humanitarian disaster funds, or like a kind of like a subsidy pool, that should be like requested at through like
see,
like
there's
there needs to be like hashing out all these details. I'm just throwing out the
right, but I think there's an undercurrent here, right? That I think where a lot of people don't, I say miss, but when the country first started, these states, and for a long time, the states were very independent. Now the purse strings are tied back to the federal government, which gives the federal government control. And over the years or decades has caused everything to centralize, which is why I think people fight so much, because California does something and everybody gets upset about it 5 states away, when it's California's business. Or if Kansas or Mississippi does something, people in California shouldn't get upset. But this centralization with the federal government is causing all the infighting. I think it just needs to go back to the
Well,
states
that's
doing
why
their
it's
own
like we're
thing.
fine, like let's say interstate building, like building of the roads that will connect the states together. That should be coordinated through the states of which it will go through at the federal level. Let's say somebody wants to build a dam that will affect a river that will flow through certain states. That should be coordinated through a streamlined version of the APA, which will then coordinate at the federal level and get it done. Things like that should be all handled, but everything else, kind of like maybe how you want to create your own energy, how you want to have people taught, how you want to tax people. I guess that should all be done on a state level. There shouldn't be any federal taxes or anything like that.
I don't think there should be a FEMA either. I think that should be, but it should be at the state level, right?
Because the FEMA, I think, because that's where you need some federal coordination too, but maybe on like an emergency level through like National Guard system. But FEMA's, if there's state FEMA's, they should coordinate together on a state level with whatever places are affected during whatever natural disaster is occurring.
Well, that's the thing with it.
But if they need federal assistance, then maybe through the National Guard, because the National Guard can provide the same kind of assistance that FEMA can.
Right, because there's 2 kinds of assistance, right? At the time of a disaster or right after, nobody needs money. Money doesn't do you anything. You could drop pallets of money in there and it doesn't help anything. They need actual help. People need to go, somebody's got to help do work, get people things and stuff like that. Later on, the money may be important, but if you ask the federal government to save you, it's not going to, but it'll take your money and freedom in exchange for that.
Yeah, actually, I think in a lot of these situations, throwing money at them immediately is probably one of the least efficient ways to help people. Like, if you're just looking at like when a disaster happens, the price of water in that area skyrockets, right? Like people price gouge and all that stuff for water, medicine, normal supplies. The cost of that stuff, all it goes through the roof. Yeah,
I don't think you understand how bad it is. There's no pricing. When it's that bad, you're not buying anything. There's no place to buy anything.
Yeah, stores. Yeah. I mean, I'm just talking about like people hawking.
Yeah, a
stuff
lot
on
of
the
people are
street,
electronically doing their money. I mean, that's why I always say cash is king, and I think cash will make a resurgence because people don't want to do like this central bank digital currencies or anything like. There's a certain point that I will allow digitization to convenience my life, but certain things I will do old fashioned. I was born in 1990, but I was exposed to a lot of things that were done the old fashioned way.
Yeah, like when the hurricane hit East Coast, North Carolina and stuff, there was like they basically a lot of people went to like a bartering system from what I had heard. Is there were people like exchange, I have medicine supplies, I have ammo, I have fuel. They're making exchanges on that sort of basis to try to keep everybody afloat, so to speak,
Well, that's what it falls down to, right? Like people talk about gold and silver as backup forms of currencies. If it gets to that level, it doesn't matter if you can't eat it or drink it or have a tool to kill something you want to eat. It has no value.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think we will finish that topic right there. That was a very good deep dive into an exploration of all the facets of how we need to uncover this government malfeasance, what it means, how it can affect people's lives differently. And that was a great discussion. I enjoyed that. We will move on to the last topic for the day. We will keep it on the shorter side because this involves, because it's this drama kind of stuff. I mean, I avoid drama for the most part. We're not going to be talking about the drama between Ashley St. Clair and the baby mama drama she's having with Elon Musk. Today, I want to more talk about and focus on the issue that this brings up for big tent conservatism. When I mean big tent conservatism, I'm talking about the coalition that has come around surrounding common sense values when it comes to social policy, social dynamics, fiscal responsibility, and like more acute issues like immigration or education. And of course, when you have a big tent, when you allow people who have been once on the other side of the aisle allowed to come in because they've been cast aside by the other side that is just spinning and spinning and spinning into a circle of more extremism. When you allow the disaffected to join you, sometimes you have a clashing of ideas, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way, and that can cause drama of a deeper kind. And I just wanted to tie this off because I believe people like Mark Dice and Jeremy from the Quartering sometimes want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, pardon the pun, especially with the topic involved. But I believe that you can compartmentalize being conservative, having conservative values, and then also having a friend in the sphere of influence who might not exude the same level, the same values, but you can still be cordial, be friendly, and say, "Hey, I'm glad you have a child. I'm glad you're making more, kids for Western culture or etc." And I believe that you can't just hinge people on one post and then say that they're frauds and being a part of Con Inc. What do you guys take?
I'm sorry. That's the stuff that I think that the left is so bad at. The purity test, right? They all want to do the purity test. So you're either 100% or you're out. And I don't think, I think clearly that's like cultist and insane, because no two people are going to agree 100% on anything. I don't do that with myself. So I think that's silly. They're going to be interpersonal things. It's drama. Who cares if Ben Shapiro was ticked off at Candace Owens and she's ticked off at him, and it's on that personal level? I don't care. That doesn't bother me. But we all have to, continue to work for the same goals. And I think there's room for the purists and room for people who maybe think a little different, because you really need both.
Yeah, I think that a while back, I think it was more the conservative side of things that were a bit more having a bit more of the purity test, I'd say. That was a while back, though, 30, 40 years ago or something like that. And now it seems like a lot of people have kind of rallied under this MAGA larger tent, as you're kind of referring to it as. And I guess more specifically, I guess let me finish that off. I guess what I'd say for having differing views and differing values. One of the things that I think, at least currently, the right has that the left doesn't, like you're saying, is being able to come together, disagree, and then walk away and still be like, oh, okay, well, we're all still Americans, we're all still, U.S. citizens, we're all still kind of going for the same, wanting the United States to succeed. Even though I don't agree with you on everything, hey, cool, at least we're heading in the same direction. I'm not sure if it's always been that way, but it's kind of been my experience. I think for quite a while that it has been more on the right that it's been that way. It's at the very least recently the left has been less that. I guess one other thing that I'd also want to point out, in particular with the topic that you brought up a little bit, I think that an issue that people can run into is when someone says, hey, congratulations on having a child. I think people can start to try and lump in a bunch of other things with that and go, oh, well, you saying congratulations on the child, you are then also congratulating them on, for instance, because Christian
out of
conservatism,
wedlock, or maybe because through
Yes.
IVF, or like you're throwing it all in, with something that's becomes a straw man to attack this false position of hypocritical conservatism or something.
To a degree, yes. I think it's something where they're actually bringing in. There are some people who bring in everything else that led up to the child, rather than just going, well, all this person is doing is they're congratulating someone on a child. Like if I, for instance, go out and I steal a microwave. Now I don't have any kids, but this is just an example. So let's say I go out and I steal a microwave, and I bring it home, and I put a meal inside the microwave, and I cook food for my kids, right? And I give it to my kids. Does that make feeding my children bad because I stole the microwave? No, feeding my kids is a different act than stealing a microwave. So I think there should be able to be a separation between the two. Going, well, sure, there was sex outside of wedlock, which a lot of conservative Christians would be like, well, hey, hold on a second, that's not something we should be congratulating someone on. But then there's also, hey, this child is something that's precious. It should be, someone should be congratulated on. I think that unfortunately some people can have a difficult time parsing the two out or separating the two.
Was it sex out of wedlock? I heard it was IVF. Not that it really matters.
I'm not 100% sure either. But
yeah, and that's where I'm just like, that's why I'm just, why did she throw that grenade out there like that? And that's why I understand that I won't argue where if people say that she's like a right-wing grifter, because she, has all the hallmarks of one. But the way this comes around, it really reflects sometimes badly on people who claim to be, well, if they're not a conservative, they're taking a very gatekeeping like stance and trying to criticize people who are conservatives and saying, well, shouldn't you be abiding by your own set of values? And it comes across as hollow, and it kind of irks me, especially if you try to want to call people frauds or something, especially if they're just offering some support, because that isn't that what some of the values of conservatism is, like turn the other cheek, try to find the silver lining, looking at it with some grace and dignity. But then they're trying to throw that in their face to having it have some kind of like quick win on an ideological level.
Yeah, it's almost like a tactic of the left, where it's like, I'm going to say something to you because you don't agree with me. I'm going to say something to you that makes it seem like you're being hypocritical with your own views. Therefore, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. It's a very weird way of assailing someone's position.
That was in the rules for radicals, that you make them live by the rules or the morals that they profess. That's actually a tactic.
Then why are there people who, for example, I mean, I don't want to name names, but there's, Mark Dice is highly critical of Dave Rubin all the time. I mean, when I look at it as an individual level, how is Dave Rubin raising his children? Yes, I don't IVF or like surrogacy. How is he raising his children? Is he raising them with conservative values, strong sense of family, strong sense of morals? Is that okay? Is that acceptable? Is that okay? And I
No,
believe
because
so.
there's no feminine influence. It takes both to do that properly. I think Dave Rubin's a good dude. I don't have anything against Dave Rubin, but I disagree with that part of what he did.
I would agree.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, you can't throw. It's like the purity test again. But most people anyway, are not all good or all bad. So I know a lot of people say Candace Owens is like a grifter or whatever. Okay, fine, because if she's doing the conservative situation a whole lot of good. So let her go. I mean, she's not hurting anything. You just keep your eyes open and stuff like that. The Young Turks say the same thing about Rubin, that he's just. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, and we're actually even proving our points correct here in real time, because we all have our own different points of view and different acceptable terms when it comes to conservatism, the ethics, morality that surrounds it, and that's why because it comes back to the big tent mentality of what is the boundary of considered acceptable. It's kind of like the Overton window. Well, not the Overton window, but like kind of like the slide rule just being expanded in the parentheses of what is considered conservatism is just growing into most of it.
It's really not conservatism. I think it's just what America used to be prior. In the 80s and 90s, the way politics worked was everybody essentially had the same goals. You just saw maybe a little bit different way to get there. And that's more or less what the thing was. When the left became the left and kind of went bananas, they took culture and injected it into politics and made everybody fight over that. And then that's changed the social fabric where like now we're fighting over what the goals are.
Well, they've gone beyond the purity. They've gone to the cult adherence, the blind faith of just believing in whatever is woke in the here and now. And so that's why they are of a different breed, and they just project onto everybody else as what they see, and that's why we're running into these cultural issues, the split that is starting to pull at the seams of the social fabric of the West.
I think one thing I wanted to say this because I think this is super important. I find it important. I think now is a great opportunity for conversion to sanity for those that would be converted, because as all the people, let's just say on the left in general, I mean, you're going to have the extremists who won't care, but if time goes on a little bit and those people see, or some of those people see that things get better and Trump didn't start World War III and nobody's being mean to him and they didn't lose any rights, maybe for a half a second they'll think, were they lying to me? And that's all it takes. And that once you have that thought, the cat's out the bag.
That's because that's why you see these Democrats coming out and saying the most weird, off the wall to us, because we're in the know. To us, when they say like he's gonna come after your Social Security, he's gonna steal all your money. To us, it's weird. It's completely asinine, out of left field. Like, what are you talking about? Because they cannot for 1 second break that narrative. Because if they break the narrative for 1 second and say, "Oh yeah, it's not a big deal," no, I don't actually believe this, the entire facade shatters, and then they have nowhere else to go. And that's why they get so brazen. That's why they get so violent, in my opinion, because they need to maintain that narrative by any means necessary. Otherwise, they lose their entire foothold on their grasp of the people's minds, the establishment, and power.
Yeah, and it's had to keep escalating over time. Otherwise, people stop paying attention to it. So we got to the point where, Trump and Vance are, both literally Hitler somehow. And then once the election is won, then they're letting them in, and certifying the election. And I think there are people like you're kind of pointing out, Swamp Cleaner, that they are going, wait a minute, hold on a second here. If they were literally Hitler, they wouldn't be doing this. They would be starting a war with them. Like if they were actually Hitler, we'd be doing everything we could to stop them, not just letting them in and now letting them run the country. So I think that they may have pushed too far. Let's say that.
That's why I think we conservative as a group should not attack those folks. Extend a hand, because you may get some back. And once they're converted, meaning they understand and they know they were being lied to, they're not going to go back. And I think we can probably pull a lot of people over such that it becomes, it really shifts.
Yeah,
well, unfortunately, I mean, because the leftist liberal agenda has really been pushed since the 90s, and they've, for the past 2 decades, have really had the opportunity to get ahead, to shape people's minds, to actually get people into their corner, make them tribalist, to where conservatism always lags behind by the innovation of social capture. And we're now only in the past half a decade really has churned up our ability to shape and bring people into our fold of sphere of thinking. I mean, and of course, conservatism, because it's based on free market capitalism, we're the ones who start innovating in the space and make it better, and we always pass by the cultural dominance of the other side, and that's where they're under threat. But at this point, I really don't see how many more people are able to break free of this ingrained mindset that Western civilization bad. Maybe give communism a try. How about that? Because people have been exposed that, for example, I've been seeing Hollywood. when was the last time they've shown a Chinese dictator being a bad guy or a communist being a bad guy? Not since like the 80s. Have you seen stuff like Red Dawn or something? Because what they want to do is show either Western civilization or at the very least like Russians or something. They have to be at least white to be the bad guy. So there's if Hollywood sanitizes and can shape the mind of people at this point about what is considered a bad guy, I mean, that flow is hard to break, especially after 20 years of indoctrination, pretty much.
Yeah, well,
I
they
can. Go ahead.
ahead.
You go ahead. No, go ahead. I've been talking. You go ahead.
Canadian standoff. With Hollywood, they want to be able to sell their movies in China, right? They want to be able to sell their movies in Russia. Like, I think a lot of the motivation behind that is also economic. Same with the problems with the food and medicine and stuff. A lot of the motivation is economic. But like I heard in the new Top Gun movie, for example, they wouldn't say who the enemy was that they're fighting the entire movie because they didn't want to offend China or Russia or something. They want to be able to sell the movie there. And I mean, I don't think you could say Top Gun is un-American. I feel like it's pretty base, but I think there's definitely a lot of economic motivations in that stuff, as well as ideological motivations too.
The movies, or let's say Hollywood, have been involved in propaganda and culture for a long time. I can show you movies and TV shows from the 80s that talked about the gender stuff. It was just a mention. It was quick, but it was in there. So that's at least the 80s that they were starting to inject that stuff. But even I think it was the 50s and 60s, Hollywood actually knew that they had that kind of power, and they had an actual written pact that they would not use that power for negative things. Like that was an understood thing at the time, that you would not do that because they knew they had it. Well, at some point they decided to use it.
Well, that's when the CIA said, "Screw you, you're going to work for us anyway."
Yeah, probably so.
Well, we need like Mark Dice. I mean, and here's the thing: there's a bunch of stuff that Mark Dice is right about. We need to get more church hearings and under the hood of the NSA, National Security Administration, see what's going on with all of the covert operations, the psychological operations. We need to expose all that again and see how deep the rabbit hole goes with all that. But you know what? That would be a whole other topic for a whole other show. So today, we're going to wrap this up here. I hope you guys had a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like, drop a subscribe. We'll be back again with shows in the future. We're still trying to hammer it out, trying to figure out a name for the show. We're all going to brainstorm, trying to come up with something that's like a little cheeky, something like that. We'll figure it out. But for now, everybody, how about you guys say goodbye? If you guys have a tag or a link or anything that you want to share, go ahead and shout yourselves out. I'll start with you, Rambling. Go ahead.
Hey, RamblinManTV. I play Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs on Twitch and YouTube. RamblinManTV everywhere. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the things. We just started a new D&D campaign called Of Divinity and Darkness. We're getting ready to start a Defiant tabletop RPG, which is kind of an interesting system I've never played before. If you want to check that stuff out, check out the channels. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me on. Great to chat with you guys. Lovely meeting you, Mr. Random. Good times.
Yeah, and I'll say Random Ransom. I don't have anything going in terms of links or anything like that just yet, but we'll see. Might be working on something in the background, but yeah, it was very nice meeting you, Ramblin' Man, VermiciousKnid, and good seeing you again, Swamp Cleaner. Look forward to next time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything. I just like to talk about stuff. So, but it was good. It was good chatting.
Alrighty then. All right, so I will wrap that up here. Hope you guys enjoyed again. This is Swamp Cleaner, and we'll catch you guys later.